What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy HonestlyBad Gaming, or Albert here, and today I am bringing you the third devlog of my tower defense game. Today I'm doing this a little differently. Instead of the recordings have been recorded while everything is happening, I went back and recorded the clips I needed as like a recap. Let me know if you prefer this over the old style or whatnot. But anyways, today we are going over the new enemy vehicles with the start of the enemy quote-unquote AI associated with it, the new shop UI, the turret upgrades, and the turret abilities. So let's get into this. So to start, we have three new vehicle enemies: the blimp, the Humvee, and the light mobile tank. The blimp's mesh definitely needs some work, but I was learning how to do the mesh maps in Blender, so you can tell I was slowly getting better the more I did. Of course, I will have to redo these, but for now, these are nice to have, and at least I have the idea of how to do that. So the main changes is that in Unity, I'm using the built-in agent AI they have, where you bake the terrain with AI mesh, and then you attach the AI agent nav to the entities that you want it to use. Once I figured out how to set it up properly, it wasn't too bad. So all the ground enemies will now have a nav mesh agent, wheel colliders, and a mesh collider, where the mesh colliders needed to have the wheel colliders work properly. Moving to the enemy movement script, originally the ground vehicles were set how the air vehicles were, where they would just move to the direction of the next waypoint. Instead, the ground vehicles will now have the agent's target location to the target waypoint, and as long as the waypoint is in range of the stopping distance, it will set the new target of the waypoint for it to start heading towards. Then for wheel-based vehicles, we have fixed update loop that will apply the steer and the drive to the wheels to show the steering of the front two wheels and to make the wheels rotate as if they were actually driving the vehicle. Lastly, in the car wheel script, this is where the wheel colliders will be referenced to the wheel visual and apply the changes accordingly to the wheel visual to make it look like it's turning the wheels. As you can see, the vehicle's AI mesh agent has the waypoint targeted and moves towards the point. Then a certain range of the point, the agent will target the next waypoint in the array and continue moving. The Humvee works almost flawlessly, but the whole system still needs some tweaking to get it close to perfect. But as you can see, the vehicles move, the wheels turn, and change rotation depending if the nav mesh agent is rotating towards the next target or not. The thing that still needs tweaking is the collision detection surrounding the nav mesh agent. It either works super well and avoids the walls or other vehicles, or they ram into each other and fly around. Like I said, it still needs some tweaking, but for right now, it's good enough to get more of the gameplay functionality done. If anyone has any recommendations on how to do this better, please let me know down in the comments below. Next, for the shop and node UI, originally the shop was static and each vehicle had a button. I found a temporary brick background image online, made some little shop images for the turrets with the cost, and added those images to the buttons in the shop. The perks of this is the buttons are housed nicely in a specific area of the image, and scrolling through the items are relatively easy. This will make it easier for when more turrets and abilities are added. All I have to do is create another button and image and throw it into the shop, and maybe change the bounds of the items it scrolls in. Lastly, I added an able to toggle the shop on and off with some simple buttons, and made a little slide animation for the shop to open and close smoothly when either button is toggled or a player takes control of a turret and it auto closes the UI shop. One small change is I modified my projectiles to, instead just comparing distance to the projectile to the enemy and destroy or deal damage, the projectiles now look for colliders, and if it collides with something, depending if it's a vehicle, damage, but if it's anything else, it destroys the object and does a small particle effect. I also reduced the original collision particle effect to have some better performance in the game. So next we have the special abilities that fully upgraded turrets will have. Basically, each upgraded turret will have its own prefab and its own prefab projectile. To make the functionality, I used the missile ground turret for now, to where now the turret script has a boolean and an ability area to where turrets and the abilities can have those settings set with the new projectile prefab it would have. Then basically it was as simple as just creating a separate fire button that is only allowed when the special ability boolean is true, and the player can right click and use the ability. Currently there's no obvious way if the special ability is being used or not, but in the clip you can see the normal little damage that the rocket normally does, but then the big damage and explosion radius that the ability one has. This will be explored more later on, but basically the foundations for the special abilities are done. The last item on the block is the proper way that the turret's upgrades will be handled. So currently each turret will have 2 upgrade paths, and each upgrade will have 3 upgrades. The handling of this took me a second, but thankfully I was able to add the game object, aka the turret prefab, to the turret blueprint. The way that the naming convention, other than the 1, 2, 3 for the different paths is that the first number is path 1 and the second number is path 2. I use this little convention to help, making calling the correct upgrades prefab. Then I had to update the Node UI script to be able to handle the change of costs and the text that the turrets are upgraded. And as you can see, there's some logic added to disable an upgrade path based on the level that the turret is upgraded to. Sadly, the best way I came up with the whole logic on which the turret upgrade is selected and which needs to be called. There's a ton of booleans for each upgrade path, and they get set depending on if one boolean was selected or the other, and then it knows which upgrade to select and which boolean to update. It looks confusing, it really isn't, but I bet there's a much better way of doing this, so if anyone has any recommendations, feel free to leave a comment below. So currently the only tower that has the upgrades quote unquote finished, but as you can see, each upgrade has a prefab for itself, and when you start combining the upgrades, the visuals of the turret updates as well. All turret upgrades are still controllable, but when it comes to the buffs, that will be handled by the projectile it fires. So more work in the future in that sense, but we at least have the complete upgrade paths functionality set, so there will be a lot of modeling in my future and a lot of balancing, but for now I'm happy where it's at. Next devlog, I am hoping that the last buildable and upgradable object in the game is completed, which will be the buildings that give buffs and more abilities. Hoping to add a couple more turrets and more enemies and enemy buffs as well. As always, if you want to follow the game more, go ahead and follow me on Twitch, as I stream almost 99% of the time when I work on the game. Again, thank you for checking out the devlog. Click on the subscribe button to follow and support the project more, and leave any comments. It's been your boy HonestlyBad, and I hope you guys have a great day.